Hello, I'm Nige.
Amanda's welcome to Pimp My Beer Kit. I said beer kit, not beer gut. Um, Part one. This is an introduction. What are we doing, Nige?
We're going to talk about yeast. There's three basic ways to pimp
Yeah,
your beer kit.
yeah.
Uh, you can change the yeast, add some yeast, other yeast. You can do something with fermentables and with the
Hops.
hops. We're talking about yeast today.
Yeast today. Yes.
Uh, so the kits you get the yeast with it, and you make your kit very nice. Now we've done a little dabbling in this area, changing the yeast, and we've
Yeah.
found quite remarkable differences in, especially with lagers, because lagers are designed, the beer kits are designed to brew at 20, 22 degrees,
That's right. Yeah.
uh, sort of room temperature sort of thing. With lager, if you use a lager yeast, it likes 12 to 16, so it's not ideal for the average home brewer. So most kits will have an ale yeast, uh, which is why a lot of homebrewed lager is not that brilliant,
No.
in my opinion. When you start getting to the posher kits, they might have a lager yeast, like
Mhm.
good example, Cooper's 86-day Pilsner lager
Okay.
comes with a Pilsner yeast.
Okay.
You have to brew it at a low temperature. I think some of the kits might come with the Novo Lager, the pseudo
Hmm.
lager yeast you can brew at 20. I think some of the more expensive kits might have that. And
Okay.
some, they might even have uh, Quebec yeast as well. I can't remember, there's the Omega strain is quite a neutral one.
Okay. Yeah. Now, this is something I've only tried once or twice, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. Um, and I've only had one. I've got one on the go at the moment, actually. I've got a lager that's being it comes with a beer yeast, but I've swapped it for a lager yeast. And the one thing it takes a lot longer, doesn't it? It's a
Yeah.
lot more of a steady
I think
process.
lagering, that means just waiting or what is a long time. I can't remember the translation, but it's something to do with waiting. How unusual having to wait while you're homebrewing.
Home brewing, yeah. So there we go. Um, but the one that I've done and tried and tested has been a more expensive end
And there was a less
lager.
of an impact, wasn't there?
There was less of an impact initially.
Yes.
Um, Now, this was the Hammer of Thor by Bulldog Brews.
Yes.
Um, it comes, like I say, with a beer yeast. I brewed it with the beer yeast, and as soon as that was finished, I brewed another of those Hammer of Thors, but swapped it for a lager yeast. And like I say, that it took ages. And I don't know if this is usual. You might be able to tell me. I don't know. But something that was going to come in at 6% finally came in at 6.5.
I'll
Um,
give you an idea of this. I saw something on YouTube. I would doubt that I can find it again, but someone brewed, they made a load of ferment. Well, they brewed some beer from
yeah,
scratch,
yeah.
and the wort they split into five and put a different style of yeast into all five.
Hmm.
The ABVs on all the beers were slightly different. Some were a lot
Yeah,
higher, some were a lot. So the yeast does have an
make a
impact on
difference.
the ABV.
Yeah,
Now, those five beers this guy had when they're all different colors, all from the same. So the yeast affects the color as well, the
yeah,
ABV. And the tastes were completely different. Some were really fruity, some were dry. So the yeast has a massive, massive impact.
yeah.
Later on this year, I'm going to be doing a kit, and it's our best bitter I'm going to be doing. I'm going to use three different ale yeasts just to see if that makes a difference.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, and undoubtedly it will. It'll be interesting to see what differences
but
there.
that's coming later on in the year.
Yeah,
Uh, but it's worth. I think that when we did was it the second or first beer kit festival, we had Mark brought along. He'd done Cooper's Lager, and we've done it on
yeah,
this program as well. Where I've done the same thing,
yeah.
but that was the first time the Cooper's Lager with the ale yeast you get with the kit, and the Cooper's Lager, which you did with Diamond yeast,
Oh, geez.
lager yeast. The lager yeast was lighter. It was so much lighter than
It
the
was there was a real marked difference, wasn't there?
huge difference in color,
Yeah.
uh, and the crispness of the lager one.
Christmas.
That
That was the main thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
it, that Cooper's Lager, it brewed it. It was not bad. The bog standard yeast one,
No.
but the ale yeast just knocked its socks off. It was so good. So,
Yeah.
what was it? Experiment with your yeast. We're going to
Yeah.
do some experiments ourselves, and later on the year we'll share them with you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, I mean, one thing. Sorry, one thing we did talk about briefly was the temperature it's brewing at. If it's a beer yeast, it's going to be around 22 degrees.
yes.
If it's a lager yeast, you're looking at between 9 and 13. Am I right? 9,
12 to 16.
12 to 16. Okay, all right. Um, and that's why I find myself brewing lagers in the winter because I can't. I have no means of cooling. It has to be done during the winter with a heat mat. Um,
Yes, and your
and
thermostat with a probe.
yes,
It's yeah,
the Inkbird is just the Inkbird is a lifesaver. I love it.
yeah. We
Yeah,
will do a program on top tips for brewing, and that does feature in it.
it really does. It's an absolute gem.
Now, there's
But yeah,
I touched on the Quebec yeast, Omega variety. Now that's meant to be a very clean brewing, and you can brew a lager or American IPAs with that because it's not meant to have any aftertaste coming through. I think I have used it. It was
I
okay, but you're paying top dollar for that
are
yeast.
you
Yeah,
right? Okay.
£7
Am I
up.
right in thinking that that was a really quick working yeast as well?
Yes, yeah. I've used Quebec yeast. I've used with a 7 or 8% beer once, and it took like 3 days to. I left it for 4 or 5 just to let the
Just to make
yeast
sure it
go.
had, yeah.
It's super quick, and you can brew it up to 45 degrees. The
Can you?
Omega variety, I think, is up to about 30, 32, or 35,
Okay.
or something like that.
Which still seems a little bit excessive.
Well, I can't brew much more than about 35. But the thing is,
No.
the yeast is so vigorous, it adds about a 5 degrees onto the temperature of the beer with just the reaction of the beer
Does it
work.
really? I did
Just
not know that.
nuts. But that might be something worth experimenting with.
Yeah.
I don't think I would anymore. I've experimented with that. Uh, yeah, and I
Well,
think if I
yeah.
was getting a pricier kit, I'd be less likely to experiment with other bits. I think
Yeah.
your experimentation and pimping up's got to it's at the cheaper end of the range.
I think you're right. The hammer of Thor that I did, um, the difference wasn't that marked. However, the longer that I have left the
Yeah, I know.
lager
Like I said before, I can't wait to taste that again. Well, you might say not much difference, Anders.
initially, not an awful
No,
lot of
no, no,
difference.
no, no.
Oh,
Judging by
so
your standards, you've got a 6% beer or you've got a 6.5% beer. One's 0.5% better, isn't it?
undoubtedly so. Undoubtedly so.
Yes.
Oh, guilty as charged. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's what we've. I mean, there are going to be other programs, like I say, 2 other programs with regards to pimping this. But yeast is a very quick way of being able to tweak things. It just requires a bit of planning, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So
to be able to get a
buy
place.
yourselves a cheap lager kit, get the lager yeast, and get brewing, and see what difference it will make.
Yeah, do it.
And if you're not too sure, split it in. If you've got two fermenters, do two. Do one, make it up, put half into one, half into the other, and put yeast into both. Well, the lager yeast and one and the ale yeast, and just
Just see what
do an
goes.
experiment.
Yeah.
You might discover something wonderful for very little money.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I do like the sound of that. Right. Okay. So there endeth the first episode of Pimp Your Beer Kit. We'll be back with some more words. I was going to say of wisdom, but we'll be back with more words. See you later. Bye.
Goodbye.